Welcome to Stop Fear in 6 Minutes webinar. So, events are about to get even more dramatic, and that's already starting a lot of places. And I've talked to a lot of people that are barely keeping a lid on the fear. Some of them are still capable of putting a brave face on it, but if you just scratch beneath the surface a little bit, they're fearful and they're ready to admit it. Now, this workshop is for you if you've seen that as well and you want to learn how to keep yourself out of fear no matter what is happening so that you can help as many people as possible through the challenges that we're facing now and that are going to continue so that you can hear your higher guidance and know what to do moment by moment to get the best possible outcomes. So, if you want to help others stop fear and you're serious about your own personal enlightenment, and you're here to help others in their spiritual advancement at this time, then you are in the right place right now. If you don't know why you're here, but it just feels like the right thing to do and the topic really attracted you, I am going to use some spiritual talk, but stay. I welcome you to get out of it what you can because many people are awakening right now to their spiritual sense and their personal growth, whatever you might call it, and you'll get some benefit out of this. So, I founded the Eagle Institute, which is my last business to teach businesses how it can't escape being spiritual and that they are accountable. And stopping fear is the very first part of that. Because honestly, a lot of the problems, in fact, I would say all the problems that we have at some base, at the root, have fear as an issue. So, spirituality of business, especially the way I teach it, goes way beyond just being able to stop fear and staying out of fear. And it gets into things such as meditation in the workplace and healing, self healing for leaders and stuff like that. But the most important issue that we're facing at this particular time is being able to stay fearless or to get yourself out of fear when you get there so that you can make better decisions. And that's from CEOs to anybody that's responsible for other people or making decisions that affect other people. Otherwise, honestly, we can face a lot of violence and we can face shortages of goods and services that just don't need to happen if we know how to stop the fear response. It just doesn't have to be this way. So each person in the time that we're in will manifest their own reality, partly based on what they're focused on moment by moment, and partly based on their karma. So karma is your kind of your past track record. And both of those can be improved rapidly using pranayama, which I'm going to be talking about today. So, in this time, there'll be tremendous pressure for people to release their karmic issues. And many people will only have the choice to play this out in the difficult ways. And they've chosen that because they know that they can make the fastest progress that way. But the truth is that even if you're not aware of this, much of this can be stopped or prevented, or you can mitigate it and make it a lot less if you know how to be fearless. And that's a relatively short process to do. If you know how to do a full yogic breath and you can do it correctly and you remember to do it when the pressure is on, when you really need it. So, more advanced pranayama practices remove the root of a karmic issue. And it's these karmic issues that cause fear. And when you get to that point where your karmic issues are gone, you are fearless no matter what is happening. So, of course, the more influence that you have as a leader and or as an individual, the more you will have to practice being able to hold strong when other people around you are going into fear. I was walking here earlier and I walked by somebody that was in fear, and it was actually quite a bit of fear. And I have a pretty strong energy body. So I was walking along, I was thinking pretty joyful and happy thoughts in my head. And just by being around them, even for that short period of time, my thoughts started to change and I started to hear myself like complaining and whining a little bit. So I practice a ton, and that's how easily it can happen and we can get taken off track. So luckily I recognized it and I started doing some techniques right away. So I got back to my normal, joyful, happy, fearless state. So this worked for me because I've practiced it and I can go to a full yogic breath without doing a warm up. Now, I find people that take the advanced pranayama program with me can do this once they've cleaned up their own personal roots of their karmic issues. On the way to that, they can do it some of the time, but not necessarily all the time. So let's talk about the energy body and the breath. So this is kind of getting trendy today, and people are kind of seeing some correlations, but this is based on some pretty specific science, which thanks to India, it's been documented quite well, but most of the Far East, in a lot of the indigenous cultures as well around the world, have varying degrees of knowledge of how the specifics of this work. So I'm going to talk about the Indian tradition because it's the best documented and it's the one that I was trained in. So in Sanskrit, prana means both breath and life force, and that's prana, prana. So life force is a kind of equivalent to we think of what is the energy body, such as the chakras, which also come from the Indian description of the energy body, or the meridians in Chinese medicine. So it's the part of your energy body that's connected to and directly related to the physical body. Now, of course, the human energy body is, or the energy body that relates to a human is much bigger than just that. And it's much more complex than just those parts. But breath is spiritual. It's what keeps us alive and it what keeps our higher consciousness, however you describe that, connected to your physical body. And at a more refined level, breath and interruptions in breath or negative manipulations in breath, for example, not breathing correctly, can cause mental, physical, and emotional diseases, which can also be reversed by correcting these problems and by using specific techniques. Now, many people are reluctant to believe that anything in your life that you have, whether that's you have health or not, money or not, emotional well-being or not, or relationship joy or not, is a result of the information you have in your energy body and in your pranic body. So that's the part of your energy body where the prana is stored. So, and connecting to your breath through the prana, connecting to your energy body and merging the physical and that energy body, or sorry, the 3D physical, third dimension physical and the energy body. Breath is the tool or the operation that connects those. So, if you can't accept that, then probably not a lot of the rest of this is gonna make sense to you or you'll find it that useful. But if you can accept that, you cannot ignore pranayama and correcting breathing as a way to heal or remove a lot of these imbalances which lead to all those karmic issues, or rather they're a result of the karmic issues we have. So pranayama was both discovered and channeled by yogis and saints and people that, went and meditated and lived in caves, or at least outside of mainstream society thousands of years ago, right up until recently. And it was they used it as a way to gain their own enlightenment. And part of your enlightenment is having all your mental, emotional, and energy bodies cleared of pain and old conscious stuff. Let's just call it stuff. So they codified these techniques from the basics of healthy breathing, which can honestly prevent so many things. Like it can help with addictions and making healthier habits and not getting freaked out when people are in front of you and upset. But the challenge that we have today is very few people have a truly healthy breath. That number is actually less than 1 in 500. So the yogis discovered, and the other people that were doing this meditating in caves and receiving this intuitive information, as well as discovering it from themselves, were able to discern and remove physical diseases. They saw how to do that. And they saw the unconscious patterns that people had in their auras or their energy bodies and what specific breathing techniques did and how they changed those patterns, which then they were able to see the results that they were happier in their relationships. A lot of the problems went away. Their physical diseases healed. and a lot of times mental and emotional illness healed, and spiritually, they were much better off. So, and they discovered that once they had an overall healthy breath, they could remove these unconscious patterns that were manifesting in their life by changing how the prana, the breath, and the life force that is generated from the breath moves around the physical and the energy body. So basically, this is like doing psychic surgery on yourself. So, and when all the patterns are finally gone, you're fearless. There's nothing to trigger you mentally, emotionally, or otherwise because all those little hooks, they're stored in your energy body and they're not there anymore. So there's nothing to trigger you. So I was really shocked when I personally got to this point. I had a deep fear about knowing the truth about a certain kind of person or a certain segment of people that were quite manipulative. And I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to deal with it. I would try to figure my way around it without dealing with it head on. And I certainly wasn't admitting to myself that they were, in some cases, manipulative or that I was getting manipulated. Sometimes I could see it, but I was like, oh, no, that's not happening to me. I'm staying out of it in some way. Well, no, I wasn't. I was avoiding it. So, I once I did my advanced pranayama, I could see what was going on so entirely clearly, and I wasn't able to get manipulated anymore. But when I was doing these advanced pranayama techniques, I could feel things moving around and being manipulated both in my hip sockets and the area of the second chakra, which is just kind of above where you think of the bikini line is, sort of between your pelvis and your belly button. I could feel things moving around. And that at a certain point, which was exactly 40 days from when I started, I felt a huge energy release in my hip and my second chakra at the same time. And then all of a sudden, it was like, wow, I knew the truth. And then almost right away, as will happen when we change things in our energy body, I got a phone call from a so called friend who is extremely manipulative. And I recognized it immediately, and I just thought, "Wow, she's trying to manipulate me." And she had been actually relatively successful with this in the past because we actually had a lot of things in common, and I didn't have a lot of people that I could hang out with that kinda knew about some of these, topics or wanted to do some of these things. So I'm like, "Something's better than nothing." And then I just realized, and I told her, like, "I'm not going down this path anymore. I'm not doing this anymore." Because she wasn't being honest and she wasn't being straightforward about things. And she was absolutely shocked. She tried so many different things in that conversation to try and get me to do a few things that I'm just like, no, no dice, not happening, not on my watch, not today, and not ever. And that was kind of the end of that relationship for me and the end of being manipulated for people, because I could just see it so clearly when it was happening, and there was nothing that people could do or say that would make me go into that fear part of my brain or my energy body where I would just say and go along with things just to keep the peace. I didn't feel like I needed to keep the peace anymore in order for me to be joyful and happy. So as soon as that happened, I felt so relieved and I felt joy. And a lot of people think they know what joy is, but joy, a lot of times what people are describing is a temporary feeling. For me, this was a deep, unconditional feeling of well-being. And the truth was is at that time, I didn't have a whole lot to be joyful about in my life, but I did feel this sense of well-being and happiness, and that's what joy is that's not connected to anything that's going on in your life. It's an internal feeling, and it's independent of the events or the people or the circumstances of your life. And, yeah, it was awesome. So that is the real purpose of pranayama. It's to remove your unconscious pain so that you're fearless. And it doesn't have to take a long time to do it. So people find this information attractively, you can do it in 1 year or less. And it took me a lot less than that because I already had some of the training prior to that. So, pranayama is the fastest path to fearlessness. It literally stops the reptilian part of your brain or the brainstem from being activated. And at the same time, it's strengthening the outer layers of your aura so that you're fearless, so that people can't hook you, and so that it actually prevents a lot of things from happening. It's kind of like literally walking around life in a happy bubble that people can't get at even when they try. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about stress because stress is a mild form of fear. And I've spoken extensively over the past 5 years about stopping stress and the benefits of doing that and helping performance and, how we can live a better life if we learn to stop stress, specifically in a leadership and in a business and in an entrepreneurship growth context. But the same things are go even further when we are talking about fear. So when you're in either called stress mode or fear mode, we go into the reptilian part of the brain. So we have, two main parts of the brain. It's the top part where, we have all our amazing abilities and talents, such as creativity and problem solving and healthy communication and understanding what other people are saying and all our information and our skills that we've learned, creativity, innovation, all those things are higher brain functioning. And when we start to get stressed or fearful, we go into the reptilian part of the brain, which is the brain stem, and it's reactive. And when it's in charge, the upper part of the brain doesn't really work, or its functioning is greatly reduced. And the reason for that is the brain stem's job is to keep us alive when we're in danger. So when fear gets triggered for mental or emotional reasons and we're not in physical danger, we're not making good decisions and we're not seeing things as they are and we're not be able to take into account the emotional aspects of situations or to even logically think through problems. So I asked leaders, I'm like, okay, remember the last time you had like your a bad day, you're getting really stressed, you're getting worried, maybe even getting a little fearful. Uh-oh, XYZ is going to happen. This client's going to be mad. Money's on the line. Da 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 da. And someone walks into your office with a problem. What do you do? Well, you usually yell at that person or you say, I don't have time for it right now. So that's classic fight or flight. You're fighting with the person, even if it's only verbally, you're not physically fighting with them. And you're blaming them for the problem, even if they're not. They're just telling you about it. They're actually trying to help. So, but your brain interprets them as the enemy, and as you go into that fear zone. So, as people are in fear right now, a lot of things that are otherwise maybe not indicative of aggression or maybe even intended to help. And I actually had this happen today. Like someone on a call I was on felt very threatened when I was suggesting that you could stop this stuff and be self responsible. And they started to go into fear mode and they wanted to argue with me. And I'm just like, oh, fear mode's on. Don't answer till they're done. So, yeah, so I didn't go down that path and didn't engage with her, and if I hadn't had the skills to stop my own fear and I didn't have that ability to go into fear at that time, we would have probably been in a pretty long argument over something that was, pretty not useful, not helping anybody. So, when you learn to stop the effects of fear and stress in the brain, and you can do that pretty easily with pranayama techniques. In fact, you can do it in about 6 minutes. Even if you're in some pretty tough situations, none of that happens. So, how that outcome changed, or in any situation, is let's go back to the first example. Someone walks into your office, they have a problem. Maybe it is something really serious, but instead of yelling at them and instead of interpreting them as a threat or a problem, you do your quick pranayama practice because you've been practicing and now you can get it done in just a few minutes. And then you listen and then you make an appropriate evaluation about what's happening. Is this really a big problem? Is the other person just in stress or fear and not able to evaluate things correctly? If it is really a serious problem, now you've got all your higher functioning brain working for you, your creativity, your intuition, as well as your relationship skills and all the knowledge and techniques and practices and skills that you have from all the time you've done your job. So stress, how should we say, studies have shown that even mild amounts of stress can drop your IQ by up to 10 points, and that people make mistakes on things that they wouldn't otherwise make mistakes at. And I mean real experts. I mean people like doctors and surgeons that are highly trained, air traffic controllers that, I mean, they repeat their skills over and over again. So imagine what that means for the average person, especially like maybe they're in a job that they haven't done that long and all of a sudden they go into fear. They can make mistakes or do things that aggravate situations unintentionally just because they don't know how to handle the fear part of their brain and how to shut it down. So that's one of the main things that I was teaching leaders how to do. The end result of that is A, you make better decisions, B, you feel better, and C, you get better outcomes. And God knows the world needs a lot of this right now. We have so much to do to improve the way our society is functioning in all dimensions and levels. And we need people that can stay out of fear and that have the skills to stay out of fear to make some really intelligent decisions. Whether that's a small business you own and run, or you run a department, or you're in public service in some way, or you're a CEO of a pretty large organization and you have to make decisions that impact a lot of people. This is number one, being able to stop the fear response, because that will be able to change everything else you do going forward after that for the better. So, if you think that this is a useful skill to learn and you want to, or you're intrigued by what pranayama can do, not just to stop immediate fear, but to eliminate the source and the roots of fear altogether, which it does. And I've trained a lot of people now on how to do that. We do have a program coming up for spiritual teachers, for healers, coaches, and entrepreneurs. It's starting in just over 2 weeks. I'm taking applications. So I imagine if you're here on this video, you're a good fit because I put out a very clear intentions about who this program's for. So you probably qualify. So it is the equivalent of a level 1 yoga teacher training in terms of theory and practice and being able to teach a basic series that stops stress and fear at the end. There will be channeled material in this training about what's happening in the collective consciousness and how that will affect what you are to do and how you can access what you are to do as a light worker. Now, the class sizes are going to be small. There'll be no more than 7 people. So everybody's going to get personal attention so we can have some really useful discussions about the content to make sure that everybody's really understanding it and integrating it into their consciousness, whether that mental, emotional, the physical level, as well as the spiritual level. You do have to do an entrance interview to see if you're ready. And even if you aren't ready for it, or if you're not sure if you're ready for it, we do have other programs that can get you to the point where you're ready for that. So take the entrance interview anyways, because there will obviously be future classes as well. So this program will strengthen your aura so that you can stay fearless no matter what's happening. And you will learn to turn off that fear response in your nervous system entirely. And first, it will be just a little bit here and there, or you can do it at will. But eventually, that gets done so that it's entirely off. And I've had some pretty weird things happen over the past 6 months, which could in the past would have sent me straight into fear. And I'm like, this is weird. And then just went on with it. So it does require ongoing practice, but not very much. And this program will erase your karmic root. And I mean root, one of them, if you do it as it's prescribed. It will raise your personal consciousness so that you can make the ascension timeline if you're interested in that. And for some people, even though they've decided to go, they have a lot of healing to do, and they need to do this in order to have their highest manifestations of their service mission at this time. So, this program, professional development for spiritual teachers, is the equivalent again of a 250-hour yoga teacher training, but it's specific to pranayama and it covers a similar kind of content. It's taught all over Zoom, other than the theory classes. It's really short sessions. They're 20 to 30 minutes long. So, the theory classes will be longer. We have 45 90-minute theory classes that are spaced out over a year. There won't be any classes on the weeks where there's long weekends or over traditional school breaks. There'll be 60 30-minute classes 2 times a week for 30 weeks, and this is your personal practice class where you'll be learning to do the techniques correctly for yourself. And then after that, there'll be 40 20-minute classes with me privately or one of our other top teachers, where you'll be learning your own personal sadhana or practice that's going to remove your personal root of karma, as well as learning some teaching skills so you can teach the beginner series, the Be Fearless in 6 minutes series to others. So, let me see what I missed here. Yeah, every person's like sadhana or practice that they have to do to remove their root of karma is like a prescription. And I channel a yogi that lived 500 years ago in northern India, and all the techniques that I get and the particular sort of prescriptions that I get come from her. And this practice includes teaching and how you teach to others. So the world really needs people that not only are fearless, but have all their karma gone in order to bring in the most amazing world of earth that we could have imagined. Like there's so many amazing inventions and social changes that are just on the verge of being born. And being fearless is going to help you and help a lot of other people to go through those changes, to understand that change is going to result in something beneficial. But healing, collective healing, individual healing, family healing is part of that journey. It can't be ignored because that's the piece that we need to elevate consciousness or raise consciousness. And then we get to have all those good things because all of us, or our collective average consciousness as a society, is higher. So the world really needs people like you to be able to teach others this basic series in this challenging time. And we have to teach as many people as possible to shut down that reptilian part of the brain and to direct the prana, the breath, and the life force as it was taught in the traditional way in India is the fastest way to do that. So if you want to apply, I'm going to allow people to come in by donation because I know the challenges and the weirdness that this world has resulted in, especially for a lot of people that feel called to service as light workers. We do have a suggested tuition of $3,997 US, and we have a payment plan. So, of course, this is teaching you to be karma free. So, be honest about this. So if you wanna do it, book an entrance interview with us if you think this is for you. So if you saw this on FitIn, then go to the Eagle Institute on FitIn, and you can book an entrance interview there. If you got this workshop through the Eagle Institute, whether you're on our YouTube channel or on the Eagle Institute website or one of our other social media platforms, go to the link below this video, or just go straight to theeagleinstitute.com so you can book an entrance interview, or you can also just ask any questions you have about the program, how it's going to work, and what you will personally get out of the results. Well, that is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on your personal interviews.